It wasn't just physical. That was the phrase that cut me deepest. Jack and I have a connection. We understand each other in ways you and I never did. My wife, the woman I built a life with, said that after I found the proof, the explicit texts, the hotel receipts. And now she was sitting there, tears streaming down her face, begging me not to ruin her lover's life. The sheer gall of it made my head spin. The coffee cup didn't just slip, it exploded from my fingers, shattering against the kitchen floor. Ceramic shards skidded everywhere, a perfect visual metaphor for my world instantly disintegrating. There, on Marta's phone screen, bathed in the cruel, harsh blue glow of betrayal, was the text that had sent my heart plummeting. Can't wait to feel you again, baby. Tonight at the Marriott, room 412, where the cologne I bought you, Jack. Look, before we get any further into this mess, I need to make a quick plea. If you're listening, if these stories resonate, please just hit that subscribe button, leave a like, drop a comment, and boost this channel. It helps people find these insane experiences ripped straight from Reddit. I'm Aldrine, 42. I'm a senior financial analyst at Morrison & Associates. More accurately, I'm the biggest, most pathetic fool walking the Chicago suburbs right now. I was standing in my kitchen, pristine granite counters and all, at 6:30 in the morning, staring at the concrete evidence that 15 years of marriage was a complete, agonizing fabrication. A cold, hard knot immediately formed in my chest, a place where my heart used to feel warmth. Marta had never done this before. She left her phone sitting on the counter while she showered. That thing was a surgical extension of her palm. But this morning, through some twist of fate or astounding carelessness, she'd slipped up. And now I knew why the late nights at the ad agency were happening. My hands were shaking violently as I scrolled. It was months of messages, an endless stream. Explicit photos that made me physically recoil, plans for weekend escapes, she'd lied were client retreats. And the cologne? The Christmas gift she'd handed me, claiming she picked it just for me, was clearly meant for someone else entirely. Jack Turmel. The name felt like ash in my mouth. Jack Turmel, a minor local celebrity, former college football guy, now doing a morning radio slot and selling insurance. He was married to Dana Turrell, a sharp prosecutor for the DA's office. We'd seen them around at neighborhood cookouts. I remembered Jack's cocky smile, his way of sucking all the air out of a conversation. I remembered watching Marta's gaze linger on his athletic build. The water was still running upstairs. I could picture Marta, meticulous and predictable, going through her elaborate 15-year routine. Except today, I knew she wasn't preparing for work. She was preparing for another day filled with lies. I grabbed my own phone. Click, click, click. Screenshotting everything. Every word, every picture, every piece of proof. My financial training kicked in. Documentation is everything. I was meticulously building a file that would make any divorce attorney weep with joy. The water finally stopped. I heard her footsteps above me, moving from the bathroom to the sanctity of our bedroom. Our bedroom, where she'd slept beside me every single night while mapping out her next encounter with Jack. I meticulously erased any trace of my snooping from her phone and placed it back exactly where she'd left it. Then I swept up the busted coffee cup, dumped the pieces, and poured a fresh cup. 10 minutes later, Marta floated into the kitchen, wrapped in her silk robe, hair still damp. I was sitting at the breakfast bar, reading the Wall Street Journal like it was Tuesday. Just another morning. Good morning, honey, she chirped, her lips brushing my cheek. Lips that had been on his. You're up early? Couldn't sleep. I lied, not looking up. Big presentation today. The first thing she did was grab her phone, checking it immediately. It was an involuntary, desperate tick. I caught her profile. There was a tiny, fleeting smile as she read something. Another message from Jack, no doubt. I'll be late tonight, she announced, pouring her coffee. Dinner with a client. Which client? I asked, keeping my voice utterly level. Henderson Industries. You know how demanding they are. Henderson Industries. I helped her land that account 3 years ago. They were Milwaukee-based and never required late meetings. A casual lie, delivered with the same tone she used to ask me to take out the trash. Well, don't work too hard, I said, folding the paper and standing. I wouldn't want you to burn out. She scrutinized my face, trying to catch a hint of sarcasm. I gave her nothing. Years of high-stakes finance taught me how to wear a perfect mask. Her betrayal was amateur hour compared to the corporate messes I handled. I kissed her forehead, grabbed my briefcase, and walked out. Backing the car down the driveway, I watched her through the kitchen window. She looked uneasy. Good. She should have been terrified, because Waldrine, the boring, trusting husband, was about to become the single most dangerous person in her life. The commute was spent processing the raw, searing pain into cold, functional rage. 15 years of marriage. 15 years of absolute fidelity. I turned down opportunities, ignored flirtations, all to build the life she wanted, the riverside house, the luxury cars, the club membership. All paid for by me, while she dabbled as a creative director. And my reward? Lies, cheap hotel rooms, and another man's touch. By the time I reached Morrison & Associates, the shock had solidified into ruthless focus. I wasn't going to be the pathetic cuckold, begging for mercy. I was going to be the architect of consequences. Marta was about to learn that opening this safe meant emptying everything inside. But I needed facts. I needed the full scope mapped out, every person involved, every vulnerability identified. It wasn't revenge. It was an extreme form of due diligence. My lunch hour became a deep dive into Jack Turrell. His radio show, his insurance agency, his social media. He was exactly her type, supremely confident, physically impressive, with that effortless charm that makes everyone forget he's essentially a mediocre jock living off faded glory. Crucially, he was married to Dana Turrell, a woman whose entire career as a prosecutor rested on her image of moral integrity. Scandal would ruin her. Jack thought this was a casual game, but he was sitting on a bomb. I also looked up Marta's colleagues. Her boss, Richard Steinberg, was infamous for his strict moral code. The agency had recently fired 2 people for office affairs. If the evidence went public, especially texts sent on company time, Marta's career would be incinerated instantly. The plan was taking shape. No screaming. No theatrics. This would be surgical. Devastating. Marta wanted to play games, but she had picked the wrong opponent. That evening, I retreated to my home office, organizing the evidence. Messages, photos, financial plans. Encrypted folders, cloud backups, and hard copies locked away. Evidence preservation, the first rule of war. Downstairs, I heard the familiar sounds of her getting ready for her client dinner. The shower, the hairdryer, the precise selection of clothing. It was all a performance, which had been funded by my life and my money. Tonight was the end of the show. She came downstairs wearing the black dress I bought her last anniversary. The irony was almost unbearable. My money, my gifts, all used to make her appealing to him. How do I look? She asked, turning slightly. Beautiful, I admitted. And it was true. Her beauty was exactly why this hurt so much. Jack is a lucky man. The words were out before I could stop the thought. Marta froze mid-turn, her face draining of color under her heavy makeup. What did you say? I looked up, feigning utter innocence. I said, you're a lucky woman. Henderson Industries is a huge account. She stared, searching my expression for any cracks. I held the blank face. I had too much practice. I'll be home late, she whispered finally. I'm sure you will. After the door closed, I poured a stiff bourbon and sank into my leather chair. The house felt polluted. Every room, every memory, poisoned. The kitchen where she planned her dates. The bedroom where she faked intimacy. The living room where she probably texted him while I watched TV. But she wasn't going to destroy this life I built. This house, this stability. I was going to make damn sure she understood the exact, agonizing cost of her selfishness. My phone buzzed. Greg Morrison, my best friend. Poker night Friday. You in? I stared at the message. Then I typed, absolutely. I'm feeling lucky. The next day, I called in sick, my first day off in 3 years. Food poisoning, I told my assistant. I sat in my office with coffee and a legal pad. If I was going to destroy her life, I had to be perfect. My first stop was Rena Kowalski, a PI I'd hired during a corporate fraud case. She was a former CPD detective, tough, pragmatic, and totally unsentimental about cheating spouses. Her office was exactly where you'd expect to find someone dealing with human filth, tucked between a nail salon and a tax preparer. Rena was all business, practical ponytail, jeans, and a jacket barely concealing a shoulder holster. Well, she said, shaking my hand. Didn't expect to see you again so soon. What's the trouble? I handed her the USB drive. My wife is having an affair. I need documentation. Rena spent 10 silent minutes scrolling through the evidence. Her eyebrows lifted slightly at some of the explicit content. You've done half my job for me, she finally observed. This is damning. What exactly is the goal? Everything, I replied. Financial records, timeline, meeting locations. I want to know how long, how much of my money she spent, and my legal exposure. Divorce? Nuclear war? Rena leaned back, studying me like a hostile witness. You're calm for a guy whose world just fell apart. The emotion is gone. Now it's just planning. Those are the most dangerous clients, she smiled. All right, Will, let's burn this to the ground. $500 a day plus expenses. I need a retainer. I gave her a $5,000 check. How long? A week. Maybe less if they're as sloppy as these texts suggest. While Rena got to work, I focused on the money. Our joint credit card statements were a ledger of deceit. Lingerie I never saw, expensive dinners we never shared, hotel rooms during her business trips. In 6 months, she'd flushed nearly $8,000 of our savings on her affair. But the real gut punch came from the investment accounts. Marta had been covertly draining our joint savings into a personal account I never knew existed. Small, unnoticed withdrawals that tallied up to almost $30,000 over a year. She wasn't just cheating, she was financing her escape. She was systematically looting our marriage assets to fund her infidelity. The calculation was so complete, so cold, that I actually laughed out loud, a harsh, humorless sound. I confronted her that night, subtle as ever. Honey, I mentioned over dinner. Looking at the investments today. Did you move some money recently? She didn't flinch. Yes, just transferred some to the money market. Better interest rate. Which account? I don't see it on the statements. It's new. I haven't added you as a joint holder yet. Another smooth lie. I nodded and let her fabricate stories about her workday, cataloging every single deception. Later, while she was showering, I accessed her laptop. The password was our anniversary date, a pathetic, cruel irony. Her inbox was a goldmine. Hotel bookings, restaurant receipts, and exchanges with Jack that made my skin crawl. The most damning item was an email chain with her sister, Linda. Marta was calling Jack her soulmate, and me her financial security blanket. She was planning to use me for one last massive payout before discarding me. Linda was enthusiastically egging her on, offering her a place to stay in Portland during the divorce. I forwarded the crucial emails to my secure address, wiped the browser history, and shut the laptop. Upstairs, Marta was drying her hair, preparing for another night of lies. Tomorrow was Friday, poker night with the guys. And Greg Morrison, my best friend, was also the best divorce lawyer in the city. It was time to build the case. Friday night, Greg's basement, cigar smoke, and the familiar comfort of men who had seen it all. Tom, real estate. Mike, criminal defense. Dave, corporate litigation. My own private legal dream team. 3 hands into the game, I dropped the bomb. Hypothetically, I said, discarding 2 cards. What's the protocol if you find out your wife is cheating? Silence. Mike nearly choked on his beer. This isn't hypothetical, is it, Will? Greg asked, his voice low. I shook my head and told them everything. The texts, the financial fraud, the systematic betrayal. Dave was taking notes before I was done. Jesus, Will, Tom said. That's brutal. How do you want to handle it? I don't want a divorce, I said, leaning in. Not yet. I want her to feel the crushing weight of what she threw away. I want her to live the consequences. Mike, the criminal lawyer, was already mapping it out. Legal? Social? Professional? I want the affair exposed in a way that obliterates her reputation. Jack's wife needs to know. Her boss needs to see the fraud. Our entire social circle needs to understand exactly who she is. Dave looked up from his pad. That's not revenge, Will. That's just truth and consequences. Exactly. We spent 2 hours constructing the campaign. Greg would draft the divorce papers, but hold them. Tom would protect our assets. Mike would ensure every move was legally airtight. Dave would handle the corporate fallout. Once you start, Greg warned, as the night wrapped up, there is no going back. Your marriage is over regardless. My marriage died the minute she betrayed me, I told him. I'm just making sure she understands the price of the funeral. Saturday morning, Rena called with the preliminary report. She'd been following them for 3 days. The evidence was staggering. Hotels, lavish dinners, Jack buying her jewelry with what had to be Dana's money. They're not even trying to be discreet, Rena said. Yesterday, they had lunch 2 blocks from Dana's office. They are monumentally stupid, or they think they're untouchable. Probably both, I sighed. And Jack? He's a serial cheater, right? 12 years married to Dana, and this is at least affair number 3. He's got a pattern. Does Dana know? She's smart enough to suspect, but prosecutors are good at ignoring inconvenient truths. She might be looking the other way. That stops now. I want to approach her carefully. When she finds out, it needs to be maximum impact for both of them. I spent the weekend finalizing my moves. Marta was clearly unnerved, constantly asking if I was okay, sensing the shift in the air. Each time, I smiled and assured her everything was fine, citing the imaginary, big presentation. Sunday night, while she was on the phone with Linda, I made the first strike. I created an anonymous email account and messaged Richard Steinberg, her boss. Mr. Steinberg, I wrote, you need to know that Marta Dreen is using company resources to run an extramarital affair. Company phone, company email, work hours, charging personal expenses to corporate accounts. I've attached documentation. A concerned citizen. I attached the sanitized texts and the damning credit card receipts. The email was scheduled to hit his inbox Monday at 9 a.m. When Marta walked into work, her life would be waiting to explode. But Jack Turrell was next, and the stakes for him were much, much higher. As I climbed into bed Sunday night, hearing Marta's shallow breathing beside me, I felt an eerie sense of calm. The world of lies was about to be washed clean. The truth was coming back with a vengeance. Monday morning was dark and wet, matching the coldness inside me. I was up at 5:30, sitting in the dark kitchen with my coffee, watching the seconds tick toward 9 a.m. when the email would land. Marta's phone sat silent on the counter, an inert weapon. At 6:15, the shower started. 20 minutes of hot water, 10 minutes for hair, 15 for makeup, 5 for the carefully selected outfit. The predictable ritual I'd watched for 15 years. It was all an act. Today, the curtain was falling. At 6:40, the water stopped. I closed my laptop. This was it. The culmination of the shock, the anger, and the cold, calculated planning. The moment she realized her passive, trusting husband was gone. She came down at 7:10, moving efficiently in the navy suit I'd bought her, wearing my grandmother's pearls. Even her tools of betrayal were my gifts. She flipped on the kitchen light and stopped, seeing me fully dressed, sitting in the dark. Jesus, Will, you scared me. Why are you sitting in the dark? Thinking, I said softly. We need to talk. My tone made her freeze. She must have finally noticed the laptop, the closed face, and her phone in my hand. Is that my phone? She whispered. Yes, and it contains some very illuminating reading material. She lunged for it, but I pulled it away. The trip is canceled, I announced. What trip? I don't know what you're talking about. Room 412 at the Marriott. Tonight at 8. Jack is going to be incredibly disappointed. Her knees buckled. She clutched the counter. Will, I can explain. No need. It's perfectly clear. 6 months of hotels, dinners, and shopping, all charged to our accounts. Jack wasn't just taking my wife. He was doing it at my expense. She started to speak again, but I cut her off. I'm not done. Sit down. I won't sit down. Give me my phone. Sit down, Marta. The command, flat and sharp, made her obey. She pulled out the chair and sank into it, shaking. Here is the program, I said, placing her phone on the counter. You will give me every password, email, social media, banking. You will hand over your laptop, and then you will lift up your dress. What? You heard me. Lift up your dress. I have a feeling you aren't wearing your usual cotton underwear to work. I refuse to do that. You will, or I will forward every text, every photo, every email to Richard Steinberg right now, then to the Chicago Tribune, your mother, and every contact in your phone book. Your choice. Her face collapsed. Tears tracked through her makeup. She stood, slowly, and lifted the hem of the navy suit. Red lace. A matching set I'd never seen, undoubtedly purchased for Jack. Very nice, I commented, taking a picture with my phone. Jack has expensive tastes. Too bad he won't be seeing it tonight. Please, Will. I know how this looks, but I know exactly how it looks. It looks like my wife has been systematically sleeping with another man and lying to my face for half a year. My voice was calm, almost conversational, which terrified her more than shouting would have. It's not what you think. It's not just physical. Jack and I have a connection. We understand each other in a way you and I never did. A connection. Charming. Does his wife know about this connection? Her eyes went huge. You can't tell Dana. She's a prosecutor. It would ruin Jack's life. That, I said, opening my laptop, is the entire point. I showed her the draft email to Dana Turrell at the DA's office, complete with every piece of evidence. One click, and Dana sees everything. A prosecutor's husband, caught red-handed, with photographic evidence and a complete timeline. Highly embarrassing for someone whose career depends on moral integrity. You wouldn't dare. Watch me. I clicked send to Dana. I opened the next draft. That was your lover's wife. This one is for your boss. Screenshots, hotel documentation during work hours, receipts for personal expenses on the company card. Richard will fire me. Absolutely. Probably today. I sent that email. Then the third draft. This goes to your mother. All the photos you sent Jack, along with his colorful replies. Magda will be particularly interested in the one where you're wearing her grandmother's pearls while planning your adultery. Please. Not my mother. She'll disown me. She should. You've disgraced the family. I sent the third email and closed the laptop. It's done. By 9 a.m., every significant person in your life will know the truth. Marta slid out of the chair, sobbing, hugging herself. Why are you doing this to me? I am not doing this to you. I am simply sharing the truth about you. You did this to yourself the moment you chose to betray me. It just happened. I didn't want it. This was not an accident, Marta. This was 6 months of calculated lies. You stole money from our accounts, plotted your financial escape, and performed the role of loving wife while planning the destruction of our life. It was deliberate, and it was cruel. I stood and walked behind her chair. She flinched as I got close. I leaned in, hands resting on the back of the chair, and whispered, "This is not the end. This is the beginning. By the time I finish, you will wish you had never met Jack Turrell. You will wish you had never, ever betrayed me, and you will understand that destroying someone who loved you has a price." I returned to my side of the table. 2 choices. Go upstairs, pack one bag, and leave this house forever. Or stay, play the part of the broken, remorseful wife, and hope that I might one day consider forgiveness. But either way, the affair is dead. Jack's world is ending, and yours is becoming a living hell. If I leave, I get nothing. You get the clothes on your back. I'll freeze the accounts, file for adultery, and ensure you receive exactly 0 in the settlement. Go live with Linda in Portland. Enjoy starting over with whatever Jack can scrape together, assuming Dana leaves him a penny. And if I stay? If you stay, you live by my rules. You go where I send you, do what I tell you, and say what I tell you. You become the perfect public wife. And maybe, in time, I'll decide if this marriage is even worth the effort of saving. The fear and hatred in her eyes were almost intoxicating. Are you getting enjoyment out of this? Yes, I am. For 6 months, you had your fun at my expense. It's my turn now. She wiped her tears, smearing her mascara further. I'll stay. Good. Now go upstairs and fix your face. You are going to work. You are going to face Richard Steinberg, beg for your job, and accept the consequences he imposes. Then you will come home and tell me every single detail. She stood, moving like a frail, old woman. What about Jack? Jack is finished. You are sending him a text right now. The affair is over. You will never see him, speak to him, or think about him again. He has much larger issues than losing you. I handed her the phone. Her fingers shook as she typed. It's over. Don't contact me again. My husband knows everything. Send it. She pressed send. Moments later, the phone buzzed with his frantic reply. What are you talking about? I took the phone and typed. This is Wildreen, Marta's husband. Your wife is getting some interesting emails this morning. I suggest you call a lawyer. His immediate reply, you bastard. I showed it to her, then deleted the entire chain. That's the last communication with your soulmate. Now get ready. You have a fascinating day ahead. She walked toward the stairs, looking like she was heading to her own execution. Halfway up, she turned. I did love you, Will. I still do. No, Marta. You love the security. You love the lifestyle. You never loved me enough to be faithful or respect me enough to be honest. That isn't love. That's just convenience. I pointed toward the stairs. Go. Face the music. And remember, this is only day one. It gets much, much worse. As she vanished, I poured another coffee. My work had just begun. Jack Turrell was about to learn the ruinous price of taking another man's wife. Marta was about to learn that betraying me was the biggest mistake of her life. The kitchen was quiet, but it felt solid now. The truth was out, the game was over, and the consequences were in motion. For the first time in forever, I felt truly in control. It was going to be an interesting day indeed. By 10:30 that morning, my phone was ringing off the hook. The first call was Richard Steinberg, Marta's boss. His voice was laced with barely controlled fury. Mr. Dreen, I need to discuss your wife's employment. I thought you might, I replied calmly. You received my email. I did, and I haven't seen a more disturbing situation in 20 years. Using corporate resources for an affair, charging personal expenses, infidelity during work hours. This is immediate grounds for termination. I fully understand. What do you need from me? Documentation. Our legal department wants everything. Texts, receipts, timelines. We need to be bulletproof if she tries to claim wrongful termination. I spent the next hour walking Steinberg and his lawyers through the evidence. Marta's career was officially dead. The gossip would spread. No reputable agency would touch her. The second call was Dana Turrell. Her voice was cold, professional, the tone of a prosecutor finding her next target. Mr. Dreen, I received your email. I'd like to meet to discuss the situation. Of course. When and where? My office. 2 p.m. Bring everything you have. Dana's office in the DA's building was exactly what I expected. Efficient, diplomas everywhere, all order and control. She was sharp, steely-eyed, probably terrifying in a courtroom. Thank you for coming, she said, gesturing to the chair. Your email was, shall we say, enlightening. You deserve to know what your husband was doing. How long did you know? I found out 3 days ago. The evidence suggests it's been going on for 6 months. She nodded, scribbling notes. And this is not his first affair. My private investigator found evidence of at least 2 others in the last 5 years. He has a pattern. Dana's jaw tightened imperceptibly. I see. And what do you want from me, Mr. Dreen? Nothing at all. You deserve the truth about your husband. What you do with it is your decision. The truth. She leaned back, staring through me. You know destroying my marriage won't fix yours. I am not destroying your marriage. I am providing information. Your husband destroyed himself. Dana was silent, then opened a file. I've been married to Jack for 12 years. I suspected infidelity for half that time, but I compartmentalized it for the sake of stability. A prosecutor cannot afford a messy personal life. But now, I have proof. Jack used our joint cards to fund these affairs. That's financial fraud. He's lied under oath about his whereabouts, which could compromise past cases. He's running his insurance business while maintaining a false public image. That may constitute consumer fraud. A genuinely cold smile touched my lips. He sounds like he's facing serious trouble. He will be. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow, and I will ensure he loses everything. His business, his reputation, his assets. When I'm finished with Jack Turrell, he'll be begging for a job selling used cars. And Marta? Your wife is a victim here, Mr. Dreen. Jack pursued her. I don't hold her responsible for my husband's predatory behavior. I actually laughed. With all due respect, Mrs. Turrell, you don't know my wife. Marta was a willing participant who knew exactly what she was doing. Perhaps. But legally, she's not my concern. Jack is. Walking out of Dana's office, I felt a deep, profound satisfaction. Jack's life was about to become a judicial nightmare, entirely self-inflicted. But Dana was wrong about one thing. Marta was not escaping the consequences. I had plans for her that would make her curse Jack's name every day. That night, I was waiting in the living room when Marta came home. She looked utterly defeated, red-eyed and messy, having aged 10 years since the morning. "How was your day?" I asked pleasantly. She collapsed into the armchair. "I was fired. Richard called me in at 9:30, and security escorted me out. Like a criminal." "I'm sorry, though not surprised. They're demanding full restitution for the company card charges. With penalties, it's almost $15,000. That is truly unfortunate. I hope you have that in your personal account." She looked at me, desperate. "Will, you know I don't. Please. I made mistakes, but I can't pay that without your help. They're threatening criminal charges if I don't pay in 30 days. Then you need to find a new job immediately." "Who will hire me? Richard is blacklisting me throughout the industry." I shrugged. "Not my problem. You made the choices, Marta. Now you live with the consequences." She started sobbing, the sound wrenching. "And Jack? Have you heard?" "No, but I imagine he's having a very intense conversation with his wife right now." Dana seemed highly motivated to ensure he pays for his infidelity. "You told his wife?" "Everything. Texts, photos, timeline, financials. She's filing for divorce and pressing criminal fraud charges. Jack is about to lose his business, his home, and his reputation." "Great choice, Marta." Her face went pale again. "Criminal charges?" "Apparently, using joint credit to fund adultery counts as financial fraud. And since Jack lied in court proceedings before, he's facing perjury charges, too. Dana is a thorough prosecutor." Marta buried her face in her hands. "This is a nightmare." "No, this is justice. You both thought you could betray your spouses without consequence. You were wrong." I walked over to her. "Jack's problems are only beginning, and so are yours. Tomorrow, we start phase 2 of your education in consequences." She looked up, terrified. "What's phase 2? Social destruction. Everyone we know, the neighborhood, the country club, our friends, will know exactly who you are. By the time I'm finished, you won't be able to show your face in this town without people whispering about your betrayal." "Will, please. I get it. I hurt you, but this is too much. Can't we try therapy?" I laughed again, that cold, hollow sound. "Therapy? After 6 months of calculated betrayal, theft, and lies? You think a few sessions will fix this?" "I'll try anything. I love you, Will. I really do. You love my money, my security, the life I gave you. You do not love me. If you loved me, you would have been faithful." I sat back down. "Here's the plan. Tomorrow, you find any job you can get. Retail, food service, cleaning, whatever. You will use that paycheck to cover your half of the household expenses and start paying back the money you stole from your employer." "My half. You're going to make me pay half. Did you think I would continue to financially support your betrayal? You pay for your food, your gas, your clothes, and half the bills. You also owe me the $30,000 you stole, plus interest. I can't afford that on minimum wage. Then find 2 minimum wage jobs. Or 3. I truly don't care how you manage it, as long as you do." Shock turned to dawning horror on her face. "You're not divorcing me." "Not yet. Divorce is too easy. You'd get a settlement, alimony, and a clean slate. I'm not rewarding your betrayal." "What do you want then?" "I want you to comprehend the magnitude of what you threw away. I want you to feel the agonizing consequences of your choices. And I want you to spend every foreseeable day regretting what you did to our marriage." I stood and started toward the stairs. "Oh, and Marta, I'm changing the locks tomorrow. One key for you. Lose it, copy it, or try anything stupid, and you sleep in your car. I'm also installing a security system with cameras in every room except the bathrooms. You're spying on me in my own house. This is my house. You are a guest. Guests abide by the rules, or they are asked to leave." As I walked up, her muffled sobs followed me. I felt nothing, no pity, no desire to comfort her. She made her bed. Tomorrow would bring new humiliations, and I was going to savor every single moment. This revenge was deeply, profoundly satisfying. 3 weeks later, Marta was clocking double shifts folding clothes at a discount store 20 minutes away. The commute took an hour in her old Honda Civic. She was folding dresses for $15 an hour, barely covering the expenses I demanded. The woman who once managed million-dollar accounts was reduced to this. But the social destruction was more effective than the financial one. It started with Sharon Kellerman, the neighborhood queen bee. I invited her over for coffee and, with a convincing display of wounded dignity, reluctantly shared the details of Marta's infidelity, the fraud, and the firing. Sharon's eyes glowed with rapturous delight. "I had no idea," she gasped, though she clearly loved the confirmation. "Poor Will, how are you holding up?" "It's been challenging," I said, playing the dignified victim to perfection. Within 24 hours, the story was everywhere. Marta was a predatory home wrecker who stole thousands to fund her glamorous shopping sprees. The country club was her public execution. When she showed up with me for the monthly dance, trying desperately to maintain appearances. She was met with a brutal wall of cold shoulders and immediate, hushed silence. Former friends suddenly had urgent business at the bar or the ladies' room. The final blow came from Margaret Peyton, the club president's wife. She approached our table, her voice dripping with venomous sweetness. "Marta," she said, "I have to inform you that the membership committee has suspended your volunteering privileges. We simply cannot have someone with your questionable moral character representing the club at charity events." Marta went white. "Margaret, it's a misunderstanding." "I assure you, there's no misunderstanding. We have detailed accounts of your behavior, and it is simply not the example we want for the younger members." After Margaret walked away, Marta turned to me, tears spilling over. "Did you arrange this?" "I had a feeling it might happen," I replied, chewing my steak deliberately. "Actions have consequences, Marta. You are only now starting to grasp what that means." But the country club was nothing compared to Jack Turrell's desperate final plea. It was a Thursday night. Marta was on her second shift. The doorbell rang. It was Jack, looking like he'd been run over by a truck. Dana's legal assault had been catastrophic: frozen accounts, a demand for total asset forfeiture, and criminal fraud charges. His radio show was canceled. His business was under investigation. He faced jail time. "We need to talk," he rasped. I stepped outside, closing the door firmly. "What's on your mind, Jack?" "You've destroyed my life." "No, Jack. You destroyed your own life the second you decided to sleep with my wife. I just ensured there were consequences." He was bigger than me, but he looked completely broken. "Dana is taking everything. The house, the business, everything. And she's pushing criminal charges. 5 years in jail, Will. You should have considered that before you started the affair. It wasn't supposed to go this far. It was just supposed to be fun, exciting. I never wanted to hurt anyone." I laughed that cold, harsh laugh. "You never wanted to hurt anyone? What did you think would happen, Jack? Did you think you could screw another man's wife forever without a price?" I thought if we were careful, discreet." "You thought you were smarter than everyone else. You thought you were entitled to take what you wanted. You were wrong." His shoulders slumped. "What do you want? Money? An apology? I'll do anything. Just tell your wife to stop the criminal charges." "Dana is your wife, Jack, and she's doing exactly what any intelligent woman does when her husband systematically betrays her for years." "Years? The thing with Marta was only 6 months." "But Marta wasn't your first, was she, Jack? Dana told me about the others. She was collecting evidence for a long time. Your affair with Marta just gave her the perfect ammunition to pull the trigger." The horror dawned on his face. "She knew about the others?" "She suspected. Now she has proof that will stand up in court. Thanks to your carelessness with my wife, she has everything she needs." His voice cracked. "My life is over." "Yes. You lose the house, the business, and your freedom. You'll be a middle-aged ex-con, broke, with a destroyed reputation. You traded all that for 6 months with my wife. Was it worth it, Jack?" He looked desperate. "Was your revenge worth it? Ruining 4 lives?" "I considered it. You know what? It was. Because you didn't just sleep with her, you made me look like an absolute fool. You stole something that was mine and used it for your gratification. Marta isn't property." "No, but she was my wife. And that meant loyalty, respect, and fidelity. You helped her violate all of it. And now you both pay." He turned to leave, then stopped. "And Marta? What will happen to her?" "Marta will spend the next few years learning what it's like to live without my security. Minimum wage, paycheck to paycheck, reminded daily of the cost of betrayal. And then, maybe, if she's suffered enough, I'll forgive her. Or maybe I'll decide some betrayals are simply unforgivable and file for divorce. I haven't decided yet." "You're a cruel bastard, Will." "No, Jack. Just a man who refuses to be a victim. You and Marta thought you could walk away unscathed. You were wrong." I went back inside and poured a bourbon. The house was quiet, peaceful. I was back in control. An hour later, Marta came home, defeated. She saw me, glass in hand, reading the paper, and a flash of pure hatred crossed her face. "Jack came by," I said, not looking up. She froze. "What did he want?" "To beg me to stop Dana's legal attack. Seems he finally understood that actions have consequences." "What did you tell him?" "That his problems were his own fault, and he should have thought about the cost of sleeping with you." She poured wine, her hands shaking. "How long is this going to last, Will? The punishment, the humiliation, the reminders. How long before you forgive me or divorce me?" I folded the paper and looked at her. "That is entirely up to you, Marta. When I am completely satisfied that you understand the full depth of what you threw away, and when I am convinced you have truly learned your lesson, then I will make a decision." "How will you know?" "I'll know." She finished her wine and looked at me, a hint of defiance returning. "You're right. I betrayed you. I lied. I stole your money and gave myself to another man. I deserve punishment." "You do. But you are enjoying this too much. You take too much pleasure in my suffering. That isn't justice. That is cruelty." I stood. "You want to define cruelty, Marta? Cruelty is lying to the person who loves you every day for 6 months. Cruelty is stealing the savings you built together to finance an affair. Cruelty is making your husband a fool while laughing about it with your lover. I never laughed at you with Jack. I read the texts, remember? I saw what you said about me, about our boring, predictable marriage compared to your exciting boyfriend. Her face flushed. Those were just things I said in the moment. No, those were your true feelings, captured when you thought no one would ever see them. Now I know exactly what you think of me. So what happens now? Now, you go upstairs, shower, and get ready for another day of minimum wage work and social isolation. And I continue to decide if you are worth the effort of forgiveness. And if you decide I'm not, then you find out what it's like to start over with only the clothes you can carry and the reputation you earned. She stared, then walked toward the stairs. I did love you, Will, despite everything. No, Marta. You loved what I provided. The security. The comfort. You didn't love me enough to be honest. That isn't love. That's just selfish convenience, with a better name. As she vanished, I returned to my chair. Outside, the steady rain began to fall. Tomorrow would bring more consequences. But tonight, I had my victory, my control, and my bourbon. Jack Turrell was ruined. Marta was suffering. And I was exactly where I should be. It had been a deeply satisfying few weeks. 6 months later, I sat in Greg Morrison's office, reviewing the final divorce papers. Greg looked exhausted. He'd just watched his best friend orchestrate the most methodical destruction of a marriage he'd ever seen. Are you sure, Will? He asked. She's been through hell. She paid back the money, working 2 jobs. She hasn't looked at another man. Maybe she learned her lesson. She learned not to get caught. I corrected. It's not the same thing. The truth was difficult to voice. Marta had changed. She worked hard. She paid her debts. She endured the shame with dignity. But every time I looked at her, I saw the liar. Every time she spoke, I heard the words whispered to Jack. The betrayal was simply too deep. Some lines, I realized, are unforgivable. The papers are ready, Greg said. No fault. Equitable division. She gets half, plus 3 years of alimony. Exactly what the law requires, nothing more. She's been punished enough, don't you think? She put herself there. I just ensured she understood the consequences. Greg signed the documents. You've changed. This made you hard. No, Greg. It made me smart. I spent 15 years trusting the wrong person. I won't make that mistake again. That night, I found Marta in the kitchen, cooking dinner after her shift at the department store. She was thinner now, lines etched around her eyes. She wore thrift store clothes and cut her own hair. We need to talk, I said, placing the papers on the counter. She looked at them, then nodded. I expected this. You've had your revenge. You didn't want to stay married to someone you despise. I don't despise you. I despise what you did. She sat at the kitchen table where it all started. What happens now? Now you sign the papers, and we move on. You get half our assets. Enough to start over. I recommend Portland. Linda is still waiting, and you have a marketing job lined up there. It's a start. And you? I'll sell the house, buy something smaller. Maybe travel. She picked up the papers. Equitable division. That's more than I deserved. It's what the law requires. No more, no less. Will, I know you won't believe me, but I am truly sorry. Not for getting caught, but for what I did to you. To us. You didn't deserve any of it. I sat opposite her, searching for the lie. There was only exhaustion and genuine remorse. Why, Marta? Why did you throw away 15 years? She stared at her hands for a long time. I felt invisible. Like I was playing a role. Jack made me feel alive, desirable, exciting. It's not an excuse, but it's the truth. You could have talked to me, chosen reconciliation, but you chose betrayal. I know, and I will regret that choice forever. She signed the papers, her hands steady, and slid them back. It's done. It was done 6 months ago, Marta. This just makes it legal. We sat in the heavy silence. 15 years of marriage, reduced to a stack of legal documents. I heard about Jack, she said softly. Jack Turrell was completely ruined. Dana had won everything. He was convicted of fraud and sentenced to 18 months in federal prison. What about him? Dana took everything. He's in prison, and when he gets out, he has nothing. No money, no future. His life is completely ruined. Yes, it is. Was it worth it, destroying him so completely? Jack chose to pursue you. He chose to risk it all. He's paying the price. But you feel no sympathy? No regret? No. Jack got exactly what he deserved. And you too. She flinched. You deserve to lose your job, your friends, your reputation, and your marriage. You deserve these consequences. If they were severe, it's because your betrayal was severe. And now you feel justice has been done. I considered the profound suffering I had inflicted. Yes, I said finally. Justice has been done. Then why don't you look satisfied, Will? Why do you look like a man who won the war, but lost something vital in the process? It was the most insightful question yet. My revenge had been perfect, devastating, yet it brought no joy. I destroyed 2 lives, ended my marriage, and felt nothing but profound emptiness. Because, I said, slowly, winning doesn't always feel like winning when the cost is so high. Then why? Why revenge instead of forgiveness? Because some betrayals are simply unforgivable. Marta, you crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. She nodded, tears returning. I accept that. But Will, I want you to know, I don't regret loving you. I regret the betrayal, but not the 15 years. I don't either. But those years are over. We have to move on. Will you be able to, Will? Or will this bitterness consume you? The last 6 months had forged a new, cold man. I systematically ruined people without a second thought. That leaves deep scars on a person's soul. I don't know, I said honestly. I guess I'll find out. Marta stood and walked toward me. For a second, I braced for a final plea. Instead, she gently squeezed my shoulder. I hope you find peace, Will. I hope you find someone who deserves your loyalty and never makes you question it. And I hope someday you can forgive me, even if you can never forget. She walked upstairs to pack her final things, leaving me in the kitchen where the destruction began. 2 hours later, she came down with 2 suitcases. Her wedding ring was on the counter next to the divorce papers. I'll send someone for the rest next week, she said. I'm going to Portland. The job is a start. She reached the front door, turned one last time. Goodbye, Will. Despite everything, I'm glad I got to love you, even if I did it poorly. And she was gone. I poured a bourbon and sat in the quiet of the house we shared. I had won. Decisively. Completely. So why did it feel so much like a crushing defeat? Outside, the rain intensified. I realized that my revenge was complete, my marriage was over, and I had no idea what came next. My future was a blank, terrifying page. I raised my glass to the empty house and the hollow victory I'd fought so hard to secure. Some safes should never be opened, I whispered into the silence. But then again, some people shouldn't have locked them in the first place. Did Will's calculated revenge, which ultimately led to the complete financial and social destruction of his betrayers, cost him his humanity and the possibility of future happiness more than the original betrayal did? Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Share your thoughts about this story in the comments.